Okay, so today we're going to learn Daf Gimel. We'll start on the very bottom of Beis and Beis. At the very end, the Gemara asks, Meisvei Marzutra. Marzutra asked the following question. Hama Peles, a woman who has a miscarriage. So this is talking about the halacha that when a woman gives birth to a girl, so she is tummy for 2 weeks, after which she goes to the mikveh. And after that, any blood that she sees for the next 66 days, bringing us to a total of 80, is not going to make her tummy. That's called tahar blood, and that's called melais. That time period is called till she completes it. The melais yimei tahara, she completes the time of her tahara. Now, the halacha is that after she finishes the 80 days, on the next day, the 81st, she brings karbanos for having the baby. Now, if by some chance she were to have gone to the mikveh after 2 weeks and then became pregnant again and miscarried all within the 80 days of the first birth, then the halacha is that she does not need to bring a separate set of karbanos for that, and it will suffice with simply using the first, using the same carbon that she's going to bring for the child who was born. That will count for the miscarriage as well, since it was within that same time frame. However, if she gives birth the next day, after that, meaning day 81, let's say, then everyone agrees she'll have to bring 2 separate karbanos. The question our Brisa is going to discuss, or maybe Mishnah, not even sure, I think it's a Mishnah, is going to discuss is as follows. So, so if a woman has a miscarriage on the night of the 81st day, okay, so day 80, everyone agrees that miscarriage is going to count with the first birth, and she will not have to bring a separate set of karbanos. Day 81, everyone agrees, is definitely separate. She'll have to bring karbanos for the first birth, and then she'll have to bring separate karbanos for the second birth. The question is, what if it's right in between? It's the night in between the 80th and 81st. So which one does that count to? So the Gemara, Mishnah, Brisa, whatever it is, says, very professional shir here.
So we're assuming that the way you described it, that the miscarriage took place during the day.
No, it happened that night. She has a miscarriage the night in between day 80 and day 81. So it's the night which starts day 81. So 80 days have completed, but the 81st day it's begun, but it hasn't finished yet.
Okay.
So what's the question? So the Gemara explains. Beishamai, carbon Beishamai says they do not have to bring a separate carbon for this miscarriage, and Beis Hillel said they do have to bring a separate carbon. So what's the rationale? So Rashi explains that Beis Shammai say that it's still considered to be part of the initial birth because she hasn't been able to bring her carbon yet, because you can only bring carbonos during the day. Okay, so that means that until day 81, she can't bring her carbon. So yes, she's completed her 80 days by the nighttime already, but she hasn't gotten to the point where she could bring a carbon to finish the process. So therefore, Beis Shammai say that's still part of the original carbon because she can't bring the carbon yet. And she had a second miscarriage or a second birth, whatever it is, before she could bring her carbon. So therefore, it's all included in one carbon. However, Beis Hillel say no. Beis Hillel say that once you've completed 80 days, you're past it. That's it. So I don't care that you couldn't bring your carbon yet. You're past the 80 days. You'd have to bring a separate carbon. Now, Amru Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel said Beis Shammai, Maishna ar shemaynim ve'echad miyeshman ve'echad. What's the difference between the night of the 81st and the day of the 81st? Im shiva lo tuma lo yesh lo carbon. Once we've already made it the same regarding tuma, why shouldn't it be the same regarding the carbon? So meaning to say that it's all the 81st day. What's the difference if it's night or day? It shouldn't matter. Okay, that's the end of the quote. So now, from the fact that Beis Hillel said to Beis Shammai, what's the difference between the night, which is called Ar, of the 81st day, and the day of the 81st day? Clearly, Ar in this context, is referring to night. So this is in fact a good proof. Another good proof. Okay, Meisvei, so we'll ask another question. When dealing with a carbon shlamim, it is unique in that the deadline for the amount of time you have to eat it is longer than it is for a regular carbon. A regular carbon, you get the day that you brought it plus that night. And by morning, anything that's left has to be burned. It's called nicer. When it comes to a shlamim, however, that's different. A shlamim, you have that day and that night plus the next day. You have 2 days. As the pasuk says, the day that you bring it, the achlet should be eaten, and the next day, and then the hanaisar ad yom shlishi, then what's ever left of the third day, beishisar, that's what should be burned. Okay, so that's what the pasuk says. So now this Mishnah Brisa, I don't know what it is. Says I'm really good at that. I would think you should be able to eat it on the hour of the third day. It means the night of the third day, meaning the day you brought it plus that night, the next day, and then that night. Right? So the night after the second day is really the night of the third day. So I would think you should be able to eat it that night. Why? Vidinu, and it's logical because zvachim, a regular carbon, necham liyam echad, can only be eaten for one day. Ushlamim and a carbon shlam necham l'shnayam can be eaten for 2 days. Just like when it comes to a regular carbon, you get the night that follows the day. So afkan laila achar hayom, you should also get the night that follows the day. So with a carbon, a regular carbon, you get that day plus that night. So a shlamim, you should get 2 days plus that night. So that's what would be logical. Talmud Lamar, to that the pasuk has to tell you no. The day that you bring it, it should be eaten, and the next day. And whatever's left until daytime, that's what you burn. What do we see from that? Specifically while it's daytime, that's when you can eat it. But you can't eat it during the night of the third. Okay? Yes? Straightforward? Okay. Now, Yachol Yisarf Miyad. Now, I might think that you should burn it right away. If you're telling me that I only have the day one that night and day two to eat it, I don't get the next night, so then maybe I should burn it that second night, the night after the second day. I should just burn it right then, not in the morning. Vidinu. And it would be logical to do that. Why? Because a regular carbon, you eat it for that day plus one night. A shlamim, now we're saying you can eat it for 2 days and the night in between. Just like when it comes to other carbonos, you burn it immediately after the time that you're allowed to eat it ends. So you can eat it during the day and the night, and the next morning, when that night ends, you burn it. So afkan take if lachilas reifa. So too over here, when it comes to a shlamim, right after the time for eating expires, you should have to burn it right away, meaning you should burn it at night, because the time expires during the day. So to that, Talmud Lama, the pasuk tells us, whatever's left over from the carbon on the third day, that's when you burn it. You can only burn it during the day and not during the night. Okay, so that's why the pasuk has to say everything that it says. At the end of the day, we have a regular carbon is eaten the day that you bring it, plus that night, and is burnt in the morning. And a carbon shlamim is eaten the day you bring it, plus that night, plus the next day, and you don't burn it until the following morning. Okay, now that's the halacha. That's what we got from this. Now, midakamar yehei nachal or l'shlishi, from the fact that it uses the term that I should be able to eat it on the night of the third day. Alma or tuhu. Clearly, this is referring to nighttime. Shema mina. This is in fact another proof. Good. Yes. Anybody?
Good.
All right. Tashma, that was convincing. Tashma, come in here, another proof. Ar shal Yom HaKippurim, on the night of Yom Kippur, Mispal Sheva, you'd say Shemona Esrei, but it's not 18 brachos or 19 brachos, it's 7, which is like we have every Shabbos and Yom Tov. You have the 3 beginning ones, the 3 end ones, and then the one in middle for the day. So you have 7 brachos, so Shemona Esrei, or Mitzvada, and then you say Vidui at the end. Shacharis, in the morning of Yom Kippur, Mispal Sheva, Mitzvada. You say again 7 brachos, and then you say vidui. The Musaf mispal sheva mizvada. Same thing for Musaf. Mincha mispal sheva mizvada. Same thing for Mincha. But Arvis mispal me'ein shmena esrei. Now, when it comes to Ma'ariv after Yom Kippur is over, you can say what's called Havinenu, which is an abridged version of Shmena Esrei. Why? Because everybody's hungry. That's been a long fast. Everybody should be able to go. You don't want to drag it out. Now, Reb Chanina ben Gamliel says the name of his ancestors, mispal shmena esrei shleimais. No, you say a full Shemona Esrei even on the Ma'ariv after Yom Kippur, because you have to say Atachan Tanu. And you can't say Atachan Tanu, you can't insert that into the abridged version. You can only insert that into the full version. And therefore, you have to say the full Shemona Esrei. Now, regardless of everything we just said, the way we started off was the night of Yom Kippur, you have 7 brachos. And then in the morning, you have 7 brachos. Alma ar urtuhu. So clearly in this case also, we're using the term ar to refer to night. Shema mina, this is in fact another proof. Okay, another one. Tashma, we'll come bring another proof. The Tana de Shmuel, the Bei Shmuel, was taught in the Academy of Shmuel. Leile Arba Asar, the night of the 14th of Nisan, Baitkin Esa Chametz, we search for Chametz, La'ar Haner, to the light of a lamp. Now this is going on our mission. So all the other proofs are proofs that the word "are" is used in the vernacular to refer to night. But here we see that it's actually our case, our Mishnah. And Tana de Shmuel says that it's referring to night, and it uses, and the term that our Mishnah used for that is "are." So Alma, "are," or Tahu. So we see clearly that the "are" of our Mishnah has to be referring to the nighttime. So after all the proofs and everything, in which we brought many proofs that the word "are" can mean night, none of them prove that that's what our Mishnah meant, though. Until we got to here. Here we see this is it.
I was going to ask.
Now it's time to wake up. Okay.
No, I'm just wondering, like,
why do we need all that? How many do we need?
proofs do you need?
Yeah. So I haven't seen it, but I would guess that the Yerushalmi skips all of this and goes straight to this.
Well, what you just gave the answer though. That none of them really prove this proves it.
Yeah, but then why do we keep doing it?
Okay, well,
Right. So if I would have to guess, the Yerushalmi would skip all of these and just bring the last one. Right. But yeah, all the other ones were just proving that it was possible. This one's proving that it's actually the intention of our Mishnah.
Okay.
So what do we do with this? Because remember, we had a machlekes. We had a machlekes what our Mishnah means when it says "are." Does it mean day or night? And here we see clearly it means night. So Ella, rather, Bein Rav Huna, Bein Rav Yehuda, L'Kulei Alma Ar Ortahu. Really, everybody is going to say that it's referring to night. But they're not arguing. Marki Asrei, Umarki Asrei. Each one was saying the way it was said in his city. Meaning, Ba'asir Rav Huna, in the city of Rav Huna, Karunagi, they would call nighttime light. Of Ased Rav Yehuda, Kari Leili, and the city of Rav Yehuda, they would call it night. So basically, everyone agrees it's talking about night. And our whole discussion until now was all based on a mistake. Really, everybody agrees it's at night. The only question is, what do you call night? Rav Huna said Nagi, which is light, but that's just a way of saying it's referring to the darkness, right? It's referring to nighttime. Right.
Got it. Yeah, light refers to dark. I get it.
Yeah. So the term that we use is Lashon Saginar, is the phrase which is very bright. What kind of phrase is very bright? That's referring to a blind person. We call a blind person someone with a lot of light, a lot of vision. It's just a nice way of referring to it. So it's the same thing every a euphemism. V'tana di dun. So now our Tana, my time aloika tani lele. Why didn't he say night? The Tana of our Mishnah, why didn't he just say night? Why is he saying this confusing term that could mean either or? Right? We just had a blot and a half of Gemara for no reason. Either or. Oh no, stop it.
You did it. You said it.
I'm deleting this recording. So the Gemara says, Lishnama al Nakat. He wanted to use a nice term, a nice phrase. Which the commentary said this is because it's the beginning of the Masechta, the very first word. We don't want to start off with something that has any kind of negative connotation, and therefore we want to start off with something which is all positive, and therefore he called it the word light, even though it's a little bit misleading potentially. Oh, could Yeshua ben Levi, as Yeshua ben Levi said, Yeshua ben Levi said, a person shouldn't say anything that's crass from his mouth, anything that's not civilized, civil, inappropriate. Yeah. Why? Because the pasuk added 8 extra letters in order not to say something which was less appropriate. Shanamar pasuk says, said from the animal which is pure and the animal which is impure, but it doesn't say that. It says the animal which is pure and the animal which is not pure. And by those 8 extra letters that it used to say the long way, in order to teach us this lesson, that we should specifically try to use a nicer terminology. Now, there are times where the Torah doesn't. The Torah says the word tameh, says it many times, but it says it this one time because generally it wants to be as concise as possible, but it wants to teach us this lesson that where being concise isn't as important, it's worth going and saying something longer, even though it's more words or more letters, in order to say something which is a nicer terminology. Rav Papa Amar Teisha, Rav Papa says it's actually not. We find a place where there are 9 extra letters. Remember, the pasuk says, there will be a person who will not be pure because of something that happened at night. Meaning to say, it could have just said he's tummy, but it doesn't say that. It says Asher lo yiyeh tahar. That's 9 extra letters. Ravina Amar Aser. Ravina says it's actually 10 letters because vav de tahar, because in that circumstance it says the word tahar with a vav in the middle. Now tahar can be spelled with or without a vav, and the Torah wrote it with an extra vav. Just all part of this to show that it's worth going the extra mile to say extra words, to say the nicer phraseology. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, Rav Yaakov says, Sheish Esrei, it's actually 16 letters. Why? Now because the pasuk says, Ki Amar Mikrahu, because he said something happened, Bilti Taru, he is not pure. So the Mikrahu Bilti Taru, Ki Loi Tar, because he's not pure. All that he could have just said he's tummy. But he said all these extra words and all these extra letters just to say it in a nicer fashion. Tanya debate Rabbi Shmuel. The county of Rabbi Shmuel, they taught, a person should always speak in a clean language as much as possible. There is a type of tumah that applies to a zav, whether that is a male zav or a female zava, either way. And that tumah is called mishkav u'maishav, that if someone is on something, riding on it or sitting on it. Now, both are referring to someone who's riding an animal. But for a man, it says he's riding, and for a woman, it says she's sitting. Why are we doing that? It's in order to say it in a nicer way, because for a woman, it's the more tznius way for her to sit, side saddle. So she's not riding, she's sitting on it. So we say it in a nicer fashion in order to not give any thoughts of a woman riding without sitting on the side. And furthermore, the pasuk said, "V'tivchan lashon harumim." You should choose the language of the wise. So again, the same idea. Also, it says, "V'das sefasai bar malalik," that my lips have chosen a very clear wisdom. So my v'aimer, why does it need to bring these extra psukim? Because maybe you'll say the first source, that's only true of the Torah itself. I only said the Torah speaks in a nice language. But maybe not when the Rabbanan are speaking. Maybe that's only when the Torah is speaking. So Tashma, we pick the pasuk of a Tivcha Lashon Arumim, which is a rabbinic source. Maybe that's also only when you're dealing with the Torah or the rabbis. But maybe when you're not talking about anything involving Torah, maybe it doesn't matter. So that's why we have this extra pasuk that says a third time to teach us that no matter what you're talking about, who you're talking to, it is always better to choose a nicer and cleaner language. All right, and we will stop here. Continue. All right.